All right, guys, welcome into another workshop for today, June 1st. I think I gave you guys the wrong date again a couple weeks ago, so I apologize for that. Been very busy finishing up a lot of new projects, so my mind has been honestly kind of scattered all over the place, and then just life stuff in general. But I either told you the wrong date or the wrong topic. I forget which one, but today we're discussing sample searching. As a producer, something that I've done since the beginning for the last 10 years is search for samples, mostly on YouTube to start out, and then I ventured into Splice and doing different packs from different individuals, doing collaborations with other producers as well. So today I kind of want to cover some of the different places you can get samples and some of the ones that I recommend, but also just kind of the climate of sample searching in general, because it's definitely not what it was 10 years ago when I started. And I'm assuming for people that have been doing it for 20 plus years, it's definitely not what it used to be, for better and for worse. Very interesting climate that we're in, especially with AI and, the way that people are creating music now is different, obviously, but the way that distributors are using it to recognize samples is, I don't want to say like unfortunate, because it is somewhat necessary to be able to make sure that the people getting sampled are properly credited and they get their fair share, but it's also, in my opinion, putting roadblocks on the creative side of things, and it's making it a lot harder to just make whatever comes to your mind and whatever feels right, because you're so worried about getting caught sampling whatever it is. And I actually had this experience with actually a Splice sample about a couple months ago. It's one of the samples I used for my upcoming compilation album, and it's kind of like an interlude beat that I put in there. And I come to find out that the way that I used the loop, someone had already used it very similarly, and they released a track literally at the beginning of the year. And my distributor flagged it and said that I could not use that. But luckily, because it's on the end of the song and it's a separate, like I said, it's an interlude beat, so it kind of fades out from the original song or the initial song, and then it goes into this other beat. I was able to just take it off and just put the song on without it, which again kind of sucks because it's, I had it in there for a reason because it helps sequence the album better, but whatever. It's going to be on Bandcamp. Bandcamp's not going to give a damn, from what I know, which is cool. So, but yeah, that's a great example. Like I've had it happen to me already, and this was the first time that it happened, and I was very, I wouldn't say I was very upset, but I was just like confused because I have always been someone that appreciates different producers being able to flip the same thing too. Like I never thought it mattered because there's so many producers that flip the same samples. And the cool thing is that, each person puts their own flair on it and their own like flavor to it. So I just don't agree with putting roadblocks in that make that an issue, especially for something like Splice, because it's supposed to be royalty free and it's supposed to be, whoever wants to use it can use it. And I still chopped it up too. Like it's not like I just threw it in there and called it a day, but it just so happens that the way I did it was very similar to the way this other person did it. And I didn't know this other person had used it. Like I said, they had just dropped a song at the beginning of the year. I had made this beat 6 months earlier. So it's like you just don't know. And it's made me have to once again reevaluate how I'm using samples, because I'm having to make sure I really get intricate with how I chop things and how I'm using it within the DAW and just within any song that I'm creating anyway. So that's just an example of where we're at, which 10 years ago, like I said, when I started out, that really wasn't a thing. I mean, unless your song was getting a lot of views and a lot of attention, and the person that you sampled knew that it was generating revenue, you probably wouldn't get anyone that would care, especially the distributors. They had nothing really in place. I guess that's a good and bad thing because you want to credit properly. I've always been a big advocate for crediting properly, doing what's right, doing what's fair, but it kills a creative aspect of it for me, especially someone that loves sampling. Um, but I, for one, still think that there's a place for sampling, and there's still plenty of places where you can get samples where it at least will be safer than just ripping a song off YouTube, which again, I think YouTube is great, especially for practicing. Like if you want to practice, what I did when I started, I would go to YouTube and just look up sample crates. And there are thousands of playlists on YouTube with just random songs that producers can sample. And most of them have been picked through heavily for sure. You know, most of them have tracks that have thousands of views. Um, but if you just want to practice, let's say you don't want to put anything out, that's what I would do. And that's what I did in 2016 was just go in there and I would just download like Chet Baker and um, Alan Hawkshaw and a lot of like sample library artists from the 70s. That's what the stuff that I was into and that I was drawn to from those sample crates. Like a lot of people go for the soul, um, because obviously you make some good boom bap from that. I was drawn always to the sample library stuff because I just love that. The melodies in that that you can use. So like I remember sampling Alan Hawkshaw on a track I did for my artist J Trey, my friend and artist J Trey at the beginning on his first mixtape, and I used part of an Alan Hawkshaw song and looped it up and made a beat out of it. So that's like a great example of like what I was doing early on. And I still do that to this day, but it's just not very, it's not as much. And it's because of the climate change. It's because of the way that sampling is viewed, not really how it's viewed, it's just the way that it's being handled by distributors and I guess just the industry in general right now. But nonetheless, I still think there's a place for it, and I think you should still do it if that's your mo. You know, if you don't create everything yourself, which I don't know how people have time to create everything themselves these days. I don't. I mean, even if I could, I don't think I'd have the time to do it. So I still think sampling is a huge part of music production, regardless. So let's go over some of these. This article is by NerdBot, 2026, and it's kind of just giving a great. The reason I picked this is because it gives a great chart, like a comparison chart here of some of the most popular ones currently. And yeah, I'd say these are all pretty standard, pretty big ones. So we'll kind of go over some of this. We're not gonna like go over every single thing, I don't think, but we'll kind of talk about them. And I guess I'll talk specifically about Splice when we get to that. First one is Lander. Now, Lander obviously is a music distributor themselves, and their whole pitch or like promo pitch, I guess, is that they have everything in house and loops are included in that for producers. So it's very similar to Splice, but it's within Lander. So you can distribute your music. You can get samples from them. I think they have a sync licensing portion as well. So you can have your stuff pitched to sync. Now here's what I don't know. It would be interesting to see, you know, would a Lander sample get flagged if you distributed it through Lander and someone else already used it, like in a similar way? I would love to know that. If anybody has had that happen to them, let me know because that would be some real BS in my opinion. Because it's like they're the ones providing the sample, they should know everything in the back end, and that should never be an issue. Like just straight up, I don't care if it's similar to someone else or not. That shouldn't be an issue. Let's start with price tiers. It says subscription with current trial offer, which again, I don't, most of these are just going to say that, and I don't really know the pricing. So you're going to want to check out the websites for these. I'm not going to put every single website in. I'm only going to put Splice in for you guys to check out in the description because it is the one I use. But any of these, you can look it up on Google in 2 seconds and find them, so it shouldn't be an issue. Librarian updates, curated genre focused packs, AI powered suggestions, high profile publishing firms, and artists like Warner Chappell and Young Chop. I haven't heard from Young Chop in years. It's kind of wild they put his name in there. If anyone knows if Young Chop still makes beats, let me know. I haven't heard of Young Chop since probably like 2016, to be honest. Um, Licensing notes. Like I said, I'm not going to go into all these, but you can read the breakdowns of all these. I just kind of want to touch on each one and just what I know about it. Splice for me, I was super anti Splice for a while. I just didn't understand it. And then once I got into it around 2023, I love it, honestly. I think it's a great tool. And it's got a lot of great quality packs up there with a lot of great quality samples, especially drum samples. Like I was really struggling with drums, like finding good drums before I started using Splice. A lot of great, very well polished drum sounds from a lot of great producers and a lot of great sound libraries. So, you know, melodies, song starters, drums for me are a big thing, like I said. And I use it really to blend it with any VSTs that I put in too. And then what I do is just add, I try to like pull textures more than anything and just see how I can combine them to make something new. And like I said, I'm trying to get better at putting my own flair on every single little thing that I pull because I don't want to just throw in the loop and call it a day. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, like I said earlier, with where we're at and all these things getting flagged, you know, you might not be able to do that much anymore, which sucks. But I've always been someone that believes you should put your own spin on it no matter what, you know, like get creative a little bit with it. Um, so that would just be my advice. But from what I see, like Splice, very great quality. I believe currently it's somewhere between 120 to 150 per year. Very reasonable, in my opinion, for what you get out of it, especially when you make beats a lot like I do. I just, it's crazy. I don't remember the exact price, but I just paid it like a month ago, so it's escaping me, but it's somewhere in that range. You could check out the website, like I said, in the description of the video. See what their subscription is. You can pay monthly, you can pay yearly or annually, whatever you want to say, but I pay annually, and it's not that bad, honestly, for what you get out of it. And there's also access to like VST um, add-ons and things like that. They're doing stuff. I think I don't know if they're doing stuff with AI. They don't have it mixed in here yet or mentioned. But again, I'm not really paying attention to that stuff currently. Really, again, royalty free, but like I said, I've gotten flagged now for stuff, so it's like you're rolling the dice, but that would just be my advice is really intricately use these all these samples, even drums, use them in a unique way, make them your own, just like get as creative as you can with them. Loop Cloud, I think Loop Cloud is fairly old because I remember hearing about them years ago. They might be one of the older ones, but same idea, same as Splice, just not as big. TrackLib is fairly big. It says they give you a free 3-day trial, and most of these have credits. So you see, like it says they give you 375 credits for premium. Max, you get 650. Um, Splice is the same way. You get like a certain amount of monthly credits. I think I get over 100 some credits a month that I can use. And usually each sound is one credit. So, like, whatever you add to your library, credit gets deducted, so on and so on. I never run out of credits, I'll be honest with you. I usually probably use maybe three-fourths of the credits per month. Sometimes I've gotten pretty low if I'm just like making a ton of stuff, but especially now, not even averaging more than like a beat a day. I'm not using a ton of credits every month. I'm not like overdoing it on the credits. And they usually reset at exactly 1 month. The only time it's a little bit iffy is when your subscription is due. It might take a while for your credits to reset. It might take a couple extra days. That's happened to me the last couple of years over there with Splice. Can't speak for TrackLib or any of the other ones on how it works, but that's my experience with Splice. Might take a little bit of time. Output Arcade, you probably heard of that if you've seen their YouTube ads. I was gonna try Arcade itself a while back. I have not done it yet, but the Arcade plugin I heard was really cool, and it basically is like a huge sound design plugin, and you can really like utilize uh, it for the full power of VST, which is cool. But Arcade is the same thing where they give you loops and things like that too. And there might be some compatibility between the two, or they might be conjoined. I don't know. Because, like I said, I've never used it, but I think there's a way where it kind of just all comes in one. If you have Arcade, you get the loops, all that stuff. And then again, it says basically the same things: DAW integration, textures, live loop updates. That might be a good thing too, but they all kind of have that as well, where they're updating the libraries pretty constantly. Uh, and then if you start scrolling down on this article, um, it gives their opinion on why they chose Lander as the best one. And you can read all that. They have some final thoughts. Um, so I think they are suggesting Lander specifically, which again, it's kind of hard to beat. Like, I've never used it, but a distributor, a loop library, sample library, and sync licensing opportunities all in one. Like, the selling points are there. I've just never used it. And it's the same as any other distributor. I've heard people having issues with it where they get their songs taken down. And it's like, I don't know. It seems like we're in a spot where like we cannot win for whatever reason, which is interesting. I just don't know where things are headed, but I at least hope you guys can use this if you do sample, or if you're planning to, if you just started producing recently. Use this as a nice comparison. Like, everything is pretty similar. There's nothing here that's like way different than the other one. It would mostly the pricing would be the big differences between them. Like I said, I would recommend Splice only because that's what I use, and I have not had any real issues with it. Like I said, the biggest issue I've had is like annual subscription is up. They don't reset my credits for like 2 more days, which is weird. I've had to contact support a couple years ago. It was weird, but it wasn't like crazy. They get back to you, they help you out, and things go back to normal. Everything else is fine, honestly. Like, I've never had really any issues with it. And like I said, I'll put that one in the description of the video so you guys can check it out if you want to use Splice. But if not, just research these, and obviously don't just use this. Like, go research everything, watch YouTube videos other than this one, and figure out what works best for you. But I guess my final thoughts are: sampling is a huge part of music, especially hip hop, and there's always going to be a place for it, in my opinion. I just wish these distributors and these labels and everybody else would lay off and just let people create. Figure out a way to make it fair, but don't punish the creators for wanting to make something, reinterpretations of songs and things like that. Like that's the whole point of the genre. That's the whole point of why we love it so much. So I just hope they find different ways to do it instead of just ripping people's songs and not letting them re-upload them or just whatever. It's definitely not what it was, but I don't think it should deter you from doing it. Just really think about how you're using whatever you're sampling. Even if you're doing stuff on YouTube, like if you don't think it's going to be an issue and you can like make it sound much different or at least somewhat different to where people won't figure it out, do it. Or better yet, just figure out how to get in touch with whoever you're sampling and just try to clear it on your own. But you're rolling the dice no matter what. It's just it's that kind of thing. But yeah, I think there's just always going to be a place for it. So thank you guys for tuning in. Link to this article, link to Splice in the description. Not sure. I'm not even going to tell you guys what we're going to be doing next. So, because it seems like I'm always getting it wrong, but it should be in a couple weeks here. Maybe mid June, we'll be back with another one of these. But as always, stay safe, stay positive. Let me know in the comments. Well, first of all, let me know in the comments. Do you sample? What do you use to sample? And have you had any issues in recent months? Because it seems like this hasn't been more of an issue as of the last like year or so. Let me know though. Like I said, I've already had one big issue that sucked, but it's not the end of the world, luckily. So let me know in the comments. But say all that to say, stay safe, stay positive. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care, everyone.